It's been a while. We have some updates here. Now, I did a video on Sarah Boone recently. If you guys haven't seen that, it's basically just going on the process of what's been happening with her appeals, or more like what's really not happening. Her appeal, it seems like the initial brief has not been filed yet, although she was found guilty about a year ago, and then she was sentenced in December. A lot of stuff happening there, but at the same time, also a lot of nothing happening. I believe she is on her fourth appeals attorney, although it's not quite as bad as you would think. I don't think there's like some bad blood between Sarah Boone and the appeals attorney. It seems like the first attorney that was assigned to her case, there was a conflict, and then we had an attorney named Joshua Adams. He was on the case for about like 7 to 9 months, although I don't know what he was doing. I don't know if he was just really busy or if he was working on her case and then something came up. But at some point, I guess he just decided not to take appellate work anymore, and he thought it would just be way too burdensome to do work for Sarah Boone, and it would probably cause a lot of issues. So he withdraws after 7 to 9 months. And at that point, they appointed a third appellate attorney, I think attorney Kouri, but there was a conflict because he was hired as a regional. I forgot the name of the office as he was hired into in the video, and I still don't remember it, but it was a regional something, something, something. Congratulations, by the way. But there was a conflict, so he was put off the case, and now we have a new attorney, appellate attorney for Sarah Boone's case. Now, there was a letter that came in from Sarah Boone. I think it was posted on October, I think Halloween time, where Sarah Boone was essentially like, okay, well, this is my second letter. What's happening? I don't even know who's even on the case anymore. I think she believes that Joshua Adams was still on her case, but little did she know it was actually a third attorney, and then now she has a fourth attorney by the name of Maldonado. So we'll see what happens with Sarah Boone's appeal, but I could see if I was her, I would probably be worried as well because, again, she was convicted about a year ago, and then her sentence had happened about, almost a year ago. In terms of another appeal, well, guess who else is also going to be appealing? Donna Adelson. So Donna Adelson, she was convicted in September, and it seems like, she put in a notice for an appeal. Do I have that up? I think I do. Hi, by the way. How are you doing? Sorry, I have like a nose thing today, so it might be a little annoying. Oh, by the way, let's see. Let me zoom in. Is this screen better? There's this other. Oh, no, we're not going to use that one. We'll do this one for now. But hello. How you doing? Donna Adelson put in a notice of appeal. So notice is given that the defendant, Donna S. Adelson, appeals to the District Court of Appeals for the First District the pretrial rulings, the evidentiary rulings at trial, the jury verdict, and the sentence of the defendant. The nature of this order is a final order of the judgment and sentence in a criminal case, the written judgment having been rendered on October 13, 2025. Oh, wait, it wasn't in September. It was in October. Yeah, it was October, right? Okay. A copy of the judgment sentence is attached to this notice. So she, again, is doing a notice of appeal, and we'll see who her attorneys will be. So similar to the Sarah Boone case, when there was a notice of appeal filed in, it was done by the attorney that was representing the defendant. However, they're not going to be the same attorney that's going to be doing the appeals work. Typically, there's like these specialized group of attorneys that can handle that type of case, and it's like very research heavy. So sounds like fun. I do want to jump over to, should we do Kohberger first, or should we do, okay, so there are two things that are happening right now. Starting off with Kouri Richards, there's a lot going on with Kouri Richards, and actually the last time I did my stream, we were covering Kouri Richards, and we were also covering Lori Vallow. In the Kouri Richards case, there's a lot of stuff that are sealed right now, and her attorneys did an interview about a month ago. Now, I was a little hesitant about covering the interview on stream because I wasn't sure. I'm pretty sure KUTV, I think that's where they did the interview, right? I'm pretty sure KUTV, yeah, they're pretty cool with us reacting to their stuff. I just remember when we reacted to Lori Vallow's interview, I forgot where that was. That was kind of like a, that was kind of a no-no. So I was a little hesitant, but now that I see that there are more people who are watching the interviews, and I think it's fine, we will watch it together. So if you guys remember with the drama with Kouri Richards, essentially her attorneys are pointing the fingers at the prosecution team, saying that, oh, you knew about this evidence, and then you try to hide it from us. So essentially they went on, national TV, and they decided to speak out about this. I haven't seen the actual interview yet, and I'm actually really glad to be able to watch it with you guys. I typically, enjoy doing the first watch with you guys, rather than just sitting by myself and just watching it. So I'm gonna watch it with you guys, and then but you know what? I think we're gonna start with Kohberger though. Yeah, let's start with Kohberger, and then we'll end with Kouri Richards. So going back to Brian Kohberger, Kohberger did a plea deal, and part of the plea deal, he was going to pay restitution to the victims' family members, and something happened where the state royally screwed up, and they did admit to it, but the state was like, yeah, there were some expenses that we thought was going to be paid out by the, I think what's called the victims crime, no, what's it called again? Victims crime. Where is it? Victims crime. I want to say victims crime unit, but I think that's wrong. Oh, crimes victim compensation. Okay, so there were certain expenses that they thought was going to be covered by the crimes victims compensation, and they told the family members, just like, hey, you guys shell the money right now, and then you'll get reimbursed by them. However, they were wrong. They fucked up. And they tried to ask for restitution. And essentially the defense was like, no, we had a plea deal and that wasn't part of it. So, we're not going to pay it. We're going to listen to that hearing because I did listen to the hearing already. And you would think it's just a boring ass hearing where they're just talking about their restitution and like whether or not they're going to agree to pay for it. But no, things were getting pretty spicy between the defense and the judge to the point where I was like, oh man, can you imagine if a trial happened? If a trial happened, yes, it would have been a really long trial, but there would have been a lot of spicy sauce between the defense and the judge. Oh my goodness. So, yeah, there's just been a lot going on, and it seems like these are like nothing burgers, but I forget how much drama can be generated in a courtroom. All right, sorry guys, my nose just started literally just acting up right when I started my stream. Maybe I should pop a Benadryl. No, I don't think it would kick in time. Oh boy, but yeah, I missed you guys too. I missed you guys. Hello, Christina, Taxi. Hope you guys are doing well. Shaniqua, hello. So, yeah, let's start with Kohberger. If you guys missed it earlier, I did do a little mini update with Sarah Boone. There is a video out just to follow along with her appeals process, although technically nothing's really been happening yet, but there's been a cycle of a cycle of attorneys essentially, coming in and leaving. And then Donna Adelson put in her notice of intent for an appeal. So no surprise there. Now, jumping over to Brian Kohberger. Oh boy. So with Brian Kohberger, I did notice this where the state, they asked for restitution, and I was a little confused because I was like, wait, I thought restitution was already part of the plea deal. Why is the state asking for restitution? I thought that was already done deal with, right? Oh gosh, hello. I haven't seen that screen in a while. I need to delete that. So this was on, what was the date for this one? This was like September. Okay, so end of September. So I saw this and I was like, oh, this is weird, but I don't know. What the hell do I know, right? So they asked for restitution against the defendant, Kohberger, and in favor of Steve and Chrissy Gonzalez in the amount of 20 grand, and in favor of Karen Laramie in the amount of 6,920. Karen Laramie is, Maddie's mom. Yeah, Maddie's mom. Yeah, Karen Laramie. Because I remember the last names were different because I think she divorced and she's remarried now. Okay. So we have Kaylee, and then we have Maddie's parents. In support of this request, the state refers to the court and counsel documentation appended here too, blah, blah, blah. So I saw this and I was like, I'm confused, but whatever. It is what it is. And then we saw this, the defendant's objection to the state's request for additional restitution. So I saw this and I was just like, okay, well, I thought you already agreed to pay for restitution. So I'm a little confused what's happening here. I think it wasn't until we got to the state's reply to this where I was like, oh, it's a lot more clear now what happened. Gotcha. Okay. So again, the defense, they objected for the additional restitution. And they talk about how the grounds for objection are that, one, the plea agreement specified funeral expenses and funds reimbursed through the Idaho Crimes Victim Compensation Fund in the amount to be determined within 60 days for July 23rd, 2025. Kohberger stipulated to those amounts, resulting in court orders in the amount of around 29 grand on August 29, 2025. The additional funds sought do not qualify as an economic loss because Steve and Chrissy Gonzalez and Karen Laramie received extensive funds through multiple GoFundMe campaigns that specifically asked for and covered the expenses sought. And number 3, Kohberger has no ability now or in the future to pay for restitution because he is serving 4 consecutive life sentence plus 10 years. But even though you might not think he has the ability to pay, I mean, sometimes if you're in jail for the rest of your life, you end up picking maybe hobbies, right? And maybe you can make money off of that. Or sometimes there is like prison work stuff that's being offered to you. And no, although you might not make a lot of money, maybe you make like $3 a week or something like that, it's still some money, right? That you can basically pay towards the victims and their family members. So I was like kind of like confused through this. It's like, oh, okay, I guess they wanted additional money, but the defense is like, oh, we're not paying that because that was already covered by the GoFundMe. But then I get to this document and I was like, oh, it's a lot more clear as to what happened. So this is the state's response to the defendant's objection to requests for restitution. And it doesn't say additional restitution, it just says restitution. The state acknowledges the Rule 11 plea agreement filed herein. Regarding restitution under Section 4, the agreement states the state may seek restitution orders regarding funeral expenses, crime victims' compensation, and reimbursement in the amount to be determined. At the time of the plea agreement, and here's the big thing, the state was under the impression that certain expenses incurred by the victims' families would be covered by the crimes victims' compensation. So that's what happened. That is why the state kind of fucked up. And I wonder, maybe they just got bad information from someone that was working in their office. Maybe the crimes victims compensation's office, maybe they were like, yeah, we'll cover it. And then they end up not covering it. Or maybe the state thought it was going to be covered, but they didn't double check with the crimes victims compensation. Like, I don't know what happened, but it's a pretty huge fuck up, it seems. After the sentencing hearing, the state was informed that crime victims compensation will not cover travel and lodging expenses for attendance of court proceedings. On behalf of the victims, the state submits the itemization of expenses that were incurred by the victims' families, including expenses not covered by crimes, victims, compensation for the court's consideration. And remember, a lot of us did think that it seems like the plea deal happened pretty quickly. If I remember correctly, it was the defense that went to the state. And over the weekend was when they were talking about this plea deal. And I remember the family members were kind of like, whoa, like what's happening here? And some of them were pissed. I wonder if things just moved really quickly to the point where maybe the state didn't really do a good job at double checking everything to make sure that like, hey, we're going to do this plea deal and let's make sure that, all the expenses are going to actually be covered by crimes victims compensation. And that way we don't have to include it in the restitution part. So I just wonder if it was like super rushed and this was just an overlook, but it seems like they fucked up. They told the family members that, we're going to cover for your travel expenses and lodging. I'm assuming the family's members paid out of pocket or through the GoFundMe. And yeah, and then they're like, fuck, well, let's try to ask Kohberger for more money. And then now the defense is fighting it. So when they went and had a hearing, the hearing happened about 10 days ago. And I knew this was on the docket, but I didn't watch it right away because I was like, like, I don't know. It might be like a boring hearing. Might not even be a big thing. Boy, was I wrong. The hearing was... The hearing was actually pretty spicy. The back and forth with the defense and the judge. And, I acknowledge that the state fucked up, but oh my God, the defense, it was very interesting. Well, I guess we'll watch it together. Oh no, those dear families have been through so much, absolutely heartbreaking. And also, when I saw this, I was just like, oh, like I think the headlines was like, oh, Kohberger refuses to pay restitution or something. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I thought he agreed to it, one. And then two, like, how much more hurt is going to cause to the family members, right? But now we see like, okay, what's really been happening behind the scenes. Remember the judge mispronounced one of the victims' names like 3 times in a row, so sad? During what hearing? I don't know if I remember that. Unbelievable. He should be responsible financially regardless if they had a GoFundMe. Oh yeah, I agree with that as well. Like if there are people out there that want to help out the family members of the victims, I think that's fine. I think he should still be responsible for what he's owed. But it seems like they had an agreement. There was a plea deal. The state fucked up. And now it's like, well, I don't know. I don't know if we could adjust the plea deal now. Defense never claimed Kohberger would not pay restitution. They were merely saying the state did not include the costs requested in the plea deal. Yes. And so if they are claiming new costs, yes. Because when I initially read the headlines, I was like, oh, like, why is he not paying restitution? I'm so confused. But then when you actually get into the meat of it, you're like, oh, that is why the defense put in additional restitution when they responded back to the state. So let's watch the hearing together. I think is it this one? Yeah, this is the one. Okay, let's watch the hearing together. It's 22 minutes long, and I was like, oh, okay, that's not too bad. Let's listen. All right, so attorneys that we have, I don't know if it's pronounced Elisa or Eliza, Massoth. I think the judge pronounced it Massoth. I thought it was Massoth. We have Ann Taylor here, and then we have, I think her name is Bika Barlow, who joined on the team, I think around this year. And then I think that's Bill Thompson. So we have 3 attorneys for the defense, and then we have Mr. Bill Thompson for the state. I don't know if Ashley Jennings is going to be, I don't think she joins. I don't remember seeing her, unless she's on the call, but then she's not on video. And then we got Judge Hippler right here. Sir Judge Hippler, who always doesn't seem to be enthused to be in these hearings. Is anyone else joining us?
All right, let's go on the record in State v. Kohberger, CR 0124316665. The defendant has been excused from today's proceedings and is not present. The defense is represented by Ms. Massoth, Ms. Taylor, and Ms. Barlow. State is represented by Mr. Thompson. This is a time set for a hearing on the state's supplemental request for restitution.
So no Brian Kohberger today. I mean, honestly, it doesn't really surprise me that he wouldn't really want to make a public appearance. And then additionally, I don't know if it was you guys, would you guys want to make a public appearance? I feel like I would want any excuse to get out of the prison, but maybe he's like, I'd rather be in prison than make a public appearance and have, the public scrutinize me.
The state can argue first.
All right, Mr. Thompson. I'm going to speed up just a bit.
Thank you, Your Honor. The attached documentation, it doesn't appear that there's a question about the amounts. I think the question that has been raised is whether the propriety of any additional restitution being ordered at this point. Yesterday afternoon, we did receive a supplemental filing from the defense, and I want to respond to that just for the record.
Can you guys hear Mr. Thompson okay? I think the audio should be good. It was a little low in the beginning, but I think it should be fine now.
Before I address the merits of the restitution requests themselves. As we indicated in our response to the defense objection to the additional restitution request, at the time that we entered into the plea agreement, Ms. Jennings and I were under the impression that crime victims compensation could be available to cover reimbursement of travel expenses. And I have to clarify that now. It is true that before trial, the families approached our office asking if there were any resources we were available to pay in advance for travel expenses or expenses related to them attending trial itself. And we looked into that, our staff looked into that and advised them no.
Wait, Shaban, is that you? I forgot that the names are kind of changed now. So if I don't recognize you guys because your names are different, I'm so sorry. But I think that's you, Shaban.
It was my understanding, and I'm mistaken. I realized I was mistaken at this point, but it was my understanding back in early July, late June, when we were talking about the plea agreement, that crime victims compensation could be available to reimburse expenses like that.
Okay, so he's owning up to it. He said it was my mistake. He's not saying it's our mistake, Ashley and my mistake, but it seems like he's the one who's owning up to the mistake of believing that these expenses will be reimbursed.
I now know that's not correct, and it was certainly my mistake. I will own it as far as our state of mind going into the plea agreement.
Yeah, but then can you imagine though if there was no GoFundMe? If there's no GoFundMe, and then let's say they spent, I don't know, 10 grand, 15 grand going from Moscow, or actually, you know what? Not even all the family members are in Moscow actually, because it's a university. I don't remember. I remember Maddie's parents had to drive a bit to get to her because I remember they went for parents weekend and then they would visit her. But yeah, I don't even know where the family members actually reside. I don't remember unless it was mentioned in the doc. But can you imagine if you spent I don't know, 10 grand and then you thought that you were going to be, reimbursed because the state said you would be reimbursed? I mean, I'm sure you would pay it anyway, but maybe you'll be a bit more picky and choosy between what hearings you might want to attend. Oh boy. So who foots the bill at the end? If there was no GoFundMe, right? And there were family members who are like, fuck, I'm minus 10 grand. What do I do? Is the state going to somehow help them out? How does that happen?
So that being said,
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'll let you finish the point on the plea agreement. And then I have a question for you about that.
And I was just finishing that point, Your Honor. So it's a good time.
Okay. So it's pretty well settled that plea agreements are interpreted as contracts, which they are. I think it's pretty well settled contract law that a unilateral mistake does not relieve one of its contractual obligations and restrictions. So how can I how can I order this restitution if the express terms of the plea agreement, though mistaken understanding by the state, don't allow such extra crime victims compensation fund reimbursement?
Yeah, because he's essentially saying that the contract has already been executed. It's a done deal. Yeah, there was a mistake made, but like, how can I go back and adjust a contract that was made between the two parties? Yeesh. For a prosecutor of 30 years, that's not believable to me, nor should it be to anyone. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't know what his schedule is like. I don't know how often. I don't know how long he's been I don't know. I don't know too much about him. I mean, he seems kind of old, so maybe he's been a prosecutor for a very long time. I don't know how often he has cases that moves to like, to other districts, how often like, victims' family members have to travel. I don't know. Maybe things changed and he thought that it was a new policy that they would cover and then he mistaken it. I don't know. People make mistakes all the time, so I'll give him benefit of the doubt. Richie, hey everyone, and Kouri, hey Midnight. Brian seems very callous and blank face / emotionless. Yes, Shabbat. Okay, I if I don't recognize you guys, just let me know what your guys' names are. Your old usernames, because yeah, YouTube did a whole update thing where it changed your guys' username. So now it's like everyone has a unique username. So if I don't recognize you guys, hello.
And Your Honor, I recognize that, and that's what I was just getting ready to address. In response to the defense's objection, the state has modified or adjusted our position on the restitution. We are, pursuant to the plea agreement, seeking restitution for the funeral-related expenses, which are the urns that are described in Exhibit 2 to our response. We are not affirmatively advocating for the travel expenses and lodging expenses of the family because we do not believe that we can legally advocate for those. At the same time, the families provided those to us and we want to provide them to the court and counsel just so everybody was aware that they are there, but we are not arguing affirmatively for that because of the wording of the plea agreement itself. So what the state is actually requesting today is just additional restitution for the funeral-related expenses, which are the urns for the families.
Okay, thank you. And you can address the other issues as well.
Yeah, so not the travel and the lodging, but just for funeral and the funeral and the urn,
which are the urns for the families.
Okay, thank you.
But now I want to know, like, yes, there's a GoFundMe to help pay for the family members and the victims, but like, is there going to be any more additional responsibility from the state to help out, or just no? Just like, oh, sorry, we fucked up. That's it. That's it.
And you can address the other issues as well.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, which other issues?
Well, the issues, if you'd like, raised in opposition to your motion, including the lack of ability to pay by a defendant and et cetera.
Yes.
Oh yeah, this part was interesting. So again, the defense argued that, well, Brian Kohberger doesn't have the ability to pay anyway, so.
Your Honor, I apologize. The defendant has raised the issue of his alleged inability to pay, and we recognize that he's going to be incarcerated until he dies. But that in and of itself doesn't mean that over the course of the balance of his life, he might become, he might receive assets. And in fact, we attached a breakdown of the types of monies that he has received during his incarceration. We also
I think that was sealed. I don't think we have access to that.
Noted the statute that allows the treasurer to intercept prospective monies that might be received based on any attempted publication of the story of the defendant. And those, if received, would be something that a restitution order could be enforced against.
Yeah, maybe he decides to sell his story, sell his side of the story or something like that. Maybe he wants to write a book. Maybe he wants to sell T-shirts. Like, I don't know, man. Isn't Jody, wasn't Jody Arias trying to raise money too? I don't know if she ended up doing that. But you have a lot of time on your hands. And Brian Kohberger is only, what, mid-30s? So who knows what he's going to do in the future, right? Maybe he doesn't end up making any money, but you never know what's going to happen. It's a long life ahead of him.
We also note that the language of the statute and the case law interpreting the restitution statute, which is 1953.
Kohberger would obviously inherit money someday, and then people send money to him. Yeah, I mean, high-profile cases, I wouldn't be surprised if people are like, hey, I'll send you some money or something, or, if you want to talk to me, or if they just want to kind of pick his brain a little bit. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if money gets sent to him, but yeah, I don't know.
304, if I believe, off the top of my head, talks about current inability to pay is not necessarily a block to the order of restitution. It's just merely a factor for the court to consider. And it is our position, given the relative youth of the defendant, the fact that he has been receiving significant monies during his incarceration already, and that there is a possibility of future monies, whether by virtue of the statute with the treasurer impounding proceeds from a story related to this, or perhaps from an inheritance from his family or others. We can't see into the future. We don't have a perfect crystal ball. The state's position is having this additional restitution place, which is really fairly minimal, would be appropriate, and have them available that if the defendant comes into assets, that the families would be able to try to satisfy the restitution orders from them.
Thank you. And then who's arguing for defense?
I will be, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you.
I thought we were going to hear from Ann Taylor today. I like listening to Ann Taylor. But no, we don't get any Ann Taylor today.
Given that the state has clarified its position that it's only seeking reimbursement for the earns, it's my understanding that that amount is $1,420 for one family, $1,587.79, and then another $167.79, which would be a total, I believe, if my math is right, of
Like $3,000.
$3,075.58. My understanding of reading the Victims Compensation Code 1953-04 is that the court must still do an analysis on Mr. Kohberger's ability to pay. And as the state has addressed, we are arguing that he does not have an ability to pay. While there have been lump sums provided to you regarding some funds that he received prior to his plea agreement, what the court does not have is a breakdown of how those funds came into the inmate system for his expenses and the fact that they were primarily family. Certainly his situation pre-plea and sentencing was drastically different than it is right now in terms of money.
She said it was primarily family, because I was thinking maybe there were people that were sending him money, because there are like a small group of people out there that did believe that he was innocent, but it seems like any money that he was getting was just mainly from family, she says.
Family. Certainly his situation pre-tax funds does not have is a breakdown of how those funds came into the inmate system for his expenses and the fact that they were primarily family. Certainly his situation pre-plea and sentencing was drastically different than it is right now in terms of money that is available to him. And there's nothing in the record to provide the court with anything other than what is really speculation based on the past, as opposed to something that the court might be able to rely upon about foreseeability. There's no way that Mr. Kohberger is ever going to profit from any sort of movie or book, because Idaho Code 1953-01 specifically precludes that.
Well, it allows that monies are swept from his account for those income to pay certain things. If there's no debt for those certain things, then does the money not go then to the defendant?
That is not my reading of the code. Perhaps I'm reading that statute more broadly than.
Yeah, because it sounds like what he was saying is that, once the restitution has been completely paid off, wouldn't he then technically get that money to him afterwards?
And the court is, I understood it to be that the purpose is that someone can't then profit off of their crime pursuant to that statute. I guess I need to read it with
even allowing your reading of it. What's to prevent, for example, a family member from agreeing to provide information, be a part of, et cetera, a story, movie, book, whatever, TV series about the murders, about Mr. Kohberger, and that certainly wouldn't be monies they receive wouldn't be subject to the statute, and then they certainly would be free to send Mr. Kohberger money to his account. What harm is it to order the restitution, which would then sort of jump in line in terms of priority of payments over some of the other ordered payments, such that if Mr. Kohberger does receive money into his accounts from any source,
yeah, so essentially he was saying that, the family members can circumvent this by essentially, they can sell the story on behalf of Kohberger, they can make the money, and then they can use that money to deposit to Brian Kohberger's account.
he's then, that those monies are then put to that use. Certainly, we're not worried about Mr. Kohberger's credit rating with having debts at this point. I'm not sure what the concern would be to, given the uniqueness of this case and the potential for family members, et cetera, to earn money from it, and potentially we've seen members of the public send money to Mr. Kohberger, is my understanding.
To my knowledge, it is illegal to make money off of the crimes. I think we talked about this a while back, the Son of Sam laws. It's actually not what I thought it was. I thought it was like, okay, because of the serial killer from, what was it, back in like the 70s or 80s, something like that, Son of Sam? Was that the 70s or 80s? Essentially, they were afraid that he was going to profit off like the crimes, and the family members were like, that's pretty fucked up. So there was like a law that was put in place where, these criminals, they can't profit off like the crimes that they did. However, it's not what I thought, because actually, like I think what happened was a lot of, there was a case that I'm trying to remember what case it was. Oh, Goodfellas. Okay. There was an author who wrote about a mobster, and that story ended up becoming Goodfellas, like the 3-hour mob movie. And I think it was a publication company decided to sue. I don't know which part of the government it was. They decided to sue because they wanted, they said that the Son of Sam law was like unconstitutional. And I think the Supreme Court ended up finding that it violated the First Amendment. Yeah. So now there's like different adaptations of the Son of Sam law where I don't think it's even enforced in only enforced in like some of the states. So what it now is that the money goes into, so like once like they get a balance of like 10 grand. So I'm trying to remember all this stuff that I looked up. Once the defendant's money hits like a balance of 10 grand, they basically alert the family members of the victims and the victims as well, depending on what crime it is, right? And so when that happens, they also give the family members time to sue them in civil court for some of the money. And I think the statutory what's the phrase I'm looking for? The limits of statutory limitations. Is that what I'm looking for? Essentially has been extended too. So it's like, okay, if they get more than 10 grand in their account, family members are alerted so they can sue in civil court. And then also the statute of limitation, that's what I'm looking for. Statute of limitations has been increased, I think. That way families have more time to get the money. But my understanding is that once that restitution is paid, then the money will still go to the defendants. Yeah. Sorry, that was a really shitty way of breaking that up, but I wasn't ready for that question. And I was trying to remember what I read. So, before I thought it was the, Son of Sam law, these people can't profit off the crimes, but it's like they technically kind of can because the Supreme Court found that it violated the First Amendment, right? There you go. All right. Sorry, that was probably a horrible recap.
To his books.
Let me go back a little bit. Maybe if I make this into a video, I will brush that up a little bit.
Concern would be to, given the uniqueness of this case and the potential for family members, et cetera, to earn money from it, and potentially we've seen members of the public send money to Mr. Kohberger, is my understanding, to his books. What's the downside to ensuring that the victims are as whole as possible from this by ordering the restitution, which again would jump in line from some of the other court-ordered fines, et cetera. And if the money's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not.
Judge, I don't see that Idaho code or Idaho law asks the court to make an analysis on the downside, but whether or not there is foreseeability of payment. And all of the things that you just listed are pure speculation. There is no book or movie that's in the works by any of his family. And to say that those things are going to happen is absolutely speculative, and there's nothing to substantiate those sorts of assertions happening in the future. So
well, there's a history in the 3 years he was incarcerated of him receiving 5 figures put on his books. Doesn't that give the court some history to suggest that such contributions from whatever source may continue into the future?
As I stated earlier, Judge, that was at a different time in the case. That was at a time when, he had not entered a plea. He was not deemed convicted of the crime. The money, a lot of that money was coming from his family to be able to have communications with their son and brother. And to speculate that those kinds of dollars are going to be able to happen for the next many decades is exactly that. It's pure speculation, not based on something that is foreseeable or based in something that's in fact before this court.
So I guess how I interpreted her statement right there was that, well, before he pled guilty, yeah, they were sending him money, but now that he's pled guilty, maybe the families are going to be a little more hesitant into giving him additional money. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe, perhaps, maybe the family members are like, okay, well, since you are guilty, then fuck you. I'm not going to send you any money. But there is a possibility that they could continue to send money to him. It seems like the family are very supportive of him, but we don't know.
Well, it just seems to me that one of the, really, obviously, even application of statute requires the court to look at what might happen into the future. And I guess, it seems to me one of the best indicators of the future is the past. And in the past, his family has, you're saying the family was the source of much of these funds, has provided him funds in order for him to communicate, et cetera. That necessity will still exist.
Right. That's what the judge was saying earlier, that the family members, they can essentially circumvent it and basically sell the story themselves. And then the money is theirs. But now they could take the money and they can deposit into the defendant's account. So that's why he brought it up to the defense attorney.
Going forward, I'm not aware of his family having disowned him at this point and not wanting any contact with him. And even if they are, that doesn't mean that won't change. And you call it speculation. It seems
that's true. It could change, right? Maybe, first couple of years, they don't want to have anything to do with him because he pled guilty of murdering 4 college students. But maybe later on in the years, they're like, you know what? We forgive him and we actually want to have a relationship with him. So
to me, that it is good at this point and not wanting any aware of his family having disowned him at this point and not wanting any contact with him. And even if they are, that doesn't mean that won't change. And you call it speculation. It seems to me that it is good evidence of what may occur in the future in light of what has occurred in the past.
Well, Judge, there is a judgment against him in the amount of $28,000, and certainly 20% of every dollar that goes into his inmate account is going to go towards paying that $28,000. Another factor that the court actually can look at under 1953-04 subsection 7 is other factors, and those factors that other factors that the court deems appropriate, and that can be collateral resources that the families obtained over $200,000, which definitely reimburse the cost of the earns in terms of economic costs.
I also want to turn to the plea agreement, because isn't a reasonable interpretation of the plea agreement that the defendant will not contest the state's seeking of restitution that is outlined in the plea agreement? Otherwise, why would it need to be in the plea agreement? It seems to me it's the plea agreement. A reasonable interpretation is the defendant is agreeing to pay restitution for those items that are identified in the plea agreement, which includes victims' compensation, which includes in this case funeral expenses. So you took advantage of the plea agreement to get the benefit of the bargain regarding the state's dropping of the death penalty. Why should you not be held to the plea agreement to pay the victims the costs of interning their children?
Yikes.
Judge, I believe that our pleading was clear, that we understood that earns fell underneath funeral costs, but that once we have a hearing on this matter, that doesn't eliminate the court's duty under 1953-04 to do the ability to pay analysis. And that's why.
Well, are you in violation of the plea agreement by arguing that your client shouldn't have to pay those?
We are not in violation of the plea agreement. If there was any violation of the plea agreement that took place, it's the state seeking this when the other expenses, when it was clear under statute and under the Idaho Victims Compensation rules that those were not reimbursable expenses.
But they've effectively withdrawn those requests and are seeking what's outlined in the plea agreement.
Mm-hmm.
What's the point of the plea?
So initially, the state was asking for additional restitution because they fucked up. They thought the expenses were going to be reimbursed by the crimes victim compensation, I think. Yeah, crime victims compensation. But now the state was like, okay, well, actually, we fucked up. We're going to withdraw it. And the defense right now, they are essentially saying they want the judge to do what do you say, like a pay assessment or something? I think they said pay assessment. And the judge was like, well, at this point, we're back to the plea agreement where the state has already withdrawn what they asked for, the additional money, right? So we're back to the plea agreement. Why do I need to do a pay assessment?
Agreement on restitution if the defense is able to argue against the restitution called for in the plea agreement itself.
Judge, again, in our pleading, we objected to what the state has withdrawn as of this moment.
So right now the state is essentially asking for, it was like $3,700, right? For the 3 urns. I think the judge is saying that, well, those 3 urns are technically part of the funeral expenses, which is part of the plea agreement. Why do I need to do a pay assessment? That's where the barrier is at.
This hearing today,
right?
We acknowledge that the urns were funeral expenses,
right?
But once we're in this situation of having a hearing, then this other section about whether or not he has an ability to pay is triggered. We stipulated to $28,000 in restitution within 60 days.
Right.
He met the terms of the plea agreement.
But it also says the state may seek restitution regarding funeral expenses, and they're simply identifying additional funeral expenses.
Man, I feel like I need to draw this out or something. So should I draw this out? No, because then I would have to actually write it out. So the disconnect is that the judge is saying the urns are part of the funeral expenses, which are outlined in the plea agreement. What she's saying is that, well, because the state asked for additional restitution, it triggered this hearing. And because this hearing happened, we are allowed to argue that Brian Kohberger doesn't have the ability to pay. So because we argued that, you, judge, you have to do the pay assessment. But he's saying, I don't have to do a pay assessment because the states withdrew what they're asking for, and we're just going to go back to the original plea deal. And that's kind of like where they're clashing. That's my understanding of it.
I don't know what more you want me to say about the urns other than
what's the point of the plea agreement if you're not going to be bound by it?
I agreed that it was $3,075.58.
But you say you shouldn't have to pay it.
What I said was that the court needs to do the analysis under Idaho code about his ability to pay.
Why hasn't the defendant waived his right to rely on that ability to pay by agreeing to those expenses as part of the plea agreement?
I don't know how the court can enter this order today without engaging in the analysis under Idaho code because it's required. That's the way I review the case law and the code, that once there's a hearing about restitution, then the court has to engage in the analysis on the ability to pay.
So the agreement to pay is illusory.
No, he agreed to $28,000. We've agreed that urns fall underneath.
Does he have the ability to pay that?
No, he does not have the ability.
So why did you agree to it?
Because it was a specific, we were provided with those receipts within 60 days. We were not provided with a receipt for the urns within 60 days.
So is your
Yeah, I think the receipts for the urn came a little bit after 60 days.
Objection, then a timeliness objection.
We did raise a timeliness objection in our pleading. I have thought about that and whether or not I think that it is a really valid argument to say that that's completely jurisdictional. I didn't to mean that the court can't take this under the review at this point in time. I didn't read the judgment language in such a strict fashion that I felt like we could say 61 days means the court's not going to consider it at all. So it is past your 60-day deadline, but I don't know that that is completely jurisdictional in the way that you drafted your judgment.
Judge is quiet. Spoiler alert, he doesn't make a ruling today. He's going to reserve on that, and then we'll have to find out later on. All right. Quite a pause there.
But I don't know that that is completely jurisdictional in the way that you drafted your judgment.
Anything else?
No.
Thank you.
Mr. Thompson?
Mr. Thompson, any rebuttal?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Thompson's like, Judge, I heard what you were saying. I don't need a rebuttal because you already got everything.
All right, thank you. I'll take the matter under advisement, issue an opinion in due course.
Okay, well, I look forward to hearing that opinion. It seems like he's already kind of made his mind, but you know, I'm sure he's just going to do some extra research to make sure that everything is good. So, quite interesting. Honestly, like I said, I thought it was going to be a boring restitution hearing, and then it did get kind of spicy, at least to me. I don't know, man. He's pushing back. He's pushing back on the assessment. It seems like to me that he doesn't think he has to do the pay assessment, and he's like, the defense has already agreed with what they agreed with the plea deal, and the earns are part of the funeral expenses. That seems like where the judge is at, but it's possible that maybe, you know, once he does some deep diving, maybe he does some more research, and he's like, you know what? Okay, fine. I could see how it could be interpreted differently, and maybe I will do the pay assessment, and then the defense will pay for the earns. All right. So, I don't think the judge was happy though. He usually, you know, things are looking a little bit shaky if the judge does more of the arguing than the opposing side does. Because, you know, Bill Thompson, you know, yeah, he had his little blurb out there. You know, he said it was my fault, blah, blah, that's it. We're just going to ask for, you know, the earns of $3,700. That's it. But then the exchange between Elisa Massive, and the judge was far more extensive than what Mr. Thompson was arguing. Anyways, hi, Northwest. How are you doing today? How's it going? Hello. Thanks for stopping by and saying hello. Richie said she's on point. I like her. Yeah, I didn't get to hear from Ann Taylor. Kind of missed her a little bit. He activated her trap card, essentially. I don't know. Corgi, which defense attorney would have blamed to say, oh, we didn't read the plea deal restitution clause. You never admit you didn't read it. No, I don't think it was the fact that she didn't read it. I think there's just a disagreement because to her, she says, once the state asked for additional restitution and then the hearing took place, yes, the state decided to essentially, you know, backtrack on asking for additional restitution. But because the hearing is now taking place, we are now allowed to argue that Brian Kohberger cannot make these payments. And because of that, then the judge needs to do a pay assessment. But the judge is saying, I don't need to do a pay assessment because the state, they withdrew the additional restitution. And so we're just going to go back to the original plea deal where the earns would be covered under funeral expenses. But yeah, I think this is like something I probably have to draw out to make it more understandable, I guess. But yeah, I think there's just like they're not at the same level, you know? But yeah, under advisement. We'll see what happens there. All right, so that's it for Kohberger for today. I will, you know, try to refresh and see what the judge decides because I'm very interested to see what his ruling is and yeah, how he's going to back it up with case law. Next, we're going to jump over to, so this one I haven't seen it yet. Kouri Richins. One in chat, if you've seen the Kouri Richins defense attorney's interview. So the interview happened about a month ago, and I was a little, like I mentioned earlier, I was a little hesitant on covering it on stream because I wasn't sure. Like, I'm pretty sure KUTV is usually pretty cool with us watching and reacting to their stuff. It was when, I forgot there was this other outlet when we reacted to Lori Vallow's interview and they're like, nope. So I just want to make sure, you know, we don't get into any trouble, but I think it should be okay. I haven't seen it yet. I wanted to kind of just wait a little bit and I saw there's some other bigger YouTubers who did react to it and it seems fine. So I think we should be okay watching it. But yeah, I wanted to watch it with you guys. They did an interview and essentially what triggered all of this is that the defense, they interviewed a witness, and this was the drug dealer. Essentially, the drug dealer who sold drugs to Kouri Richins' maid, and the maid sold the drug to Kouri Richins, allegedly. So the drug dealer met with the defense and was like, hey, you know, I actually did interview with the state and the detective, you know, a couple months back, and I told them that I never sold fentanyl. And the defense is like, wait, you never sold fentanyl to Kouri? Because then, you know, that completely destroys the state's theory that Kouri obtained fentanyl through the maid and then through him. And so if Kouri never had fentanyl and it was actually just, I think he said it was like Oxy or something, Roxy's, then that means the state's theory just completely falls apart. But what the defense was alleging was that the state hid this from the defense. And because of that, that led to them asking the judge to let Kouri be out on bail, you know, as she awaits for trial. And that they were essentially going after the state saying that, you know, they're hiding shit. It's a discovery violation. We want everything that the state has right now. Like, don't hide anything from us. So I have not seen the interview yet, but the defense attorneys are saying that, hey, you know, the state was riding through those headlines of Kouri, you know, poisoning her husband with fentanyl, how he had so much fentanyl in his system and it was delivered through a Moscow Mule, or maybe it was a lemon drop. Who knows what it is? But the state was riding through those fucking headlines. But they're saying that the state was being dishonest this entire time. And that, one, they found out that the drug dealer did not sell fentanyl to Kouri Richins. Although I think that's, you know, that's debated. You know, that's debated. But essentially, they wanted to have their side of the story out there. And they say that, you know, Kouri Richins is innocent and they believe her. So I did read a little summary article about it, but I have not seen the actual interview yet. So we are going to see the three attorneys, Alexander Ramos. I always get the other two attorneys mixed up. There's Catherine Nestor and there's a Miss Lewis, but I forgot her first name. So I have not seen it yet. Let's watch it together. Are you a lawyer? No, I would probably never be able to pass the LSAT or the bar. I'm so bad at test taking. I just like to do a lot of reading. The guy first said he sold fentanyl. He backpedaled. Now it does not strike me as very convincing. Maybe Kouri's family made him an offer he couldn't refuse. Oh, yeah. There's also that allegation as well. The allegation that Kouri Richins' sister-in-law is bribing witnesses with money or something like that. I don't know. There's so much drama with the Kouri Richins case, but oh, man. I don't know if I have it up here. I don't think I do. So for that, if you look at the court website, there's a lot of things that are filed under seal. There's a lot of stuff happening right now in the Kouri Richins case. There is an affidavit of Brad Bloodworth, who is the prosecutor. That was sealed. And I'm assuming that's sealed because he probably was like, hey, you know, I went to interview this guy. This is what was said. This is what happened, blah, 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 blah. So that was sealed. But then we also see another affidavit. Was it from Kouri Richins' defense attorney? Was it an affidavit? I don't know. There was another affidavit that popped up. And then there was also an attorney who was representing Kouri Richins' defense attorney, Mr. Ramos. So I don't know if it's because of the interview. I don't know if it's because something else that's happening in the background, because a lot of shit's happening and it's sealed and we can't see it. I don't know if it's because of, you know, not the new witness, but the witness basically changing a story. I don't know. But there's a lot of stuff happening and we can't see it. So we could only make speculations. All right, let's jump over to the interview. This is with KUTV News, Salt Lake City. Oh, I do want to mention this, though. I did see that there was a request for a transcript from the April 7, 2025, I think, hearing. And I was like, what happened on that day again? So I decided to download the transcript and I was going to read it, but it was like too fucking long and it was kind of boring. But it was essentially a change of venue hearing. And I was like, I wonder if, you know, the defense was arguing for a change of venue, saying that they wanted to move over to Salt Lake City, I think, bigger jury pool. And they were hoping that, you know, people would be less biased towards Kouri Richins. And so there was like a 2 to 3 hour hearing about that. I wonder if that transcript was requested because maybe they will use it against the defense, saying that like, hey, you know, these were your concerns. You were concerned about Kouri Richins' case being known to everyone. And here you are doing an interview with, you know, Salt Lake City, which is probably like a huge local news company, I'm assuming. But yeah, I don't know. All right, so we have Catherine Nestor, Miss Lewis, and Mr. Ramos.
In an unprecedented move,
we were willing to take an unusual step of coming forward.
Look, I never thought I would be sitting here.
Kouri Richins' attorneys.
She is distraught. She is heartbroken.
Reached out to 2 News Investigates.
That's exactly why we came here. And really, it's an ethical duty.
We have
Why is there that green screen in the background here? Could they not have removed the green screen?
a lot of confidence in you.
To set the record straight.
One thing that's been reported on that they have let go, have not corrected.
If their goal is justice.
Oh, sorry. I thought I had the captions on. Hello? Oh, are there no captions for this? Maybe there's no captions. let's see. Criminal defense attorneys for Kouri Richards are speaking out to 2 News chief investigator, reporter Wendy Halloran, Kathy Nestor, Wendy Lewis, that's her name, Wendy Lewis, and then Alex Ramos, told Halloran that they are upset about things they say are just not true that have been in the media about their client for years now. The prosecution, the Summit County Attorney's Office, has done nothing to correct them.
They have not lived up to it, at least in this case.
A 2 News exclusive.
And
Hey, Rudra, how are you doing today? Hello. Hey, newbie here. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Makes sense that you pay the victims until all the debts are cleared. Get them. Deactivate a trap card, essentially. Hey, Steve, how are you doing today? Hello. How's it going? All right, I think this is just recapping the interview. Can we just get straight to the interview? I don't know. This is like
on the end of that, and that's a client. That's a human. That's a mother.
A Camas mom charged with murdering her husband.
The narrative is that your client is the Moscow Mule murderer. Is that accurate?
A narrative of alcohol, drugs, and greed.
There are certain things that are out there that we know right now, sitting here today, just aren't accurate.
And her attorneys say false information.
I do think the prosecution has declined to correct false information that has come out in the media, and we've waited and hoped that that would occur, and it never has.
Tonight, Richard's attorneys speak.
So when Kouri Richard's story came out, it was the woman who wrote, it was like the book author murderer, where she wrote a book for her children, and it was for the grief, you know, to help grieve for their father. Come to find out, she's accused of murdering the father. So I remember that was the headline then. It was like the book author murderer. And then it shifted to the Moscow Mule thing. But then I remember when we were listening to one of the court proceedings, it was a little confusing whether or not it was a Moscow Mule or maybe it was a lemon drop shot. I think it has evolved to a lemon drop shot. But it's because Kouri Richards herself, I think, told investigators that, oh, you know, I made him a Moscow Mule, and then like we took like lemon drop shots together. So I think that was the state's theory, that it was either through the Moscow Mule or the lemon drop shot. For me, it would make more sense if it was a lemon drop shot, because if you're putting a shit ton of fentanyl in a Moscow Mule is like a mixed drink, right? That's a lot that you have to drink through. That's a lot of bitterness. That's a lot of nastiness. However, if it's a shot, you're probably just throwing it back really quickly, and I'm sure you could probably taste the bitterness in the back of your throat, but I don't know if, like, you know, taking that much fentanyl, ingesting it that quickly, how quickly it absorbs. Maybe, you know, he was unable to throw it up or anything like that. But to me, it would make more sense for it to be a lemon drop shot than a Moscow Mule. But who knows?
Speak out only to 2 News investigates. That's a town in Summit County with about 2,000.
Their family was so beautiful.
Okay, I'm just gonna...
And remembered Eric, who was a contractor coming into the store.
You can never forget his laugh. And I love that laugh so much.
Linda says she encouraged Eric to ask Kouri out after she caught his eye.
I says, you know, go over there and check out with her, you know, so they did. And anyway, they ended up having a date. From then on, they were like glued to each other, you know. It was perfect, I thought.
Perfect until March 4th, 2022, when Eric was found dead inside the couple's home. Police originally ruled that there was no foul play in Eric's death from...
Okay, let's jump over to the interview.
I am lead counsel in the Kouri Richards case.
Kathy Nestor, I am one of the attorneys on the Kouri Richards case.
Alexander Ramos, co-counsel on the Kouri Richards case.
Wendy Lewis, Kathy Nestor, and Alex Ramos took over as Richards' attorneys in May of 2024 after her previous attorney declared a conflict.
Oh, Sky Lazaro. I forgot about her. Wonder what Sky's up to now. Who is she defending at this point?
Conflict in the case.
What we came in here today were to focus on 4 very serious areas that have been absolutely factually reported incorrectly and that have been discussed publicly in court, in open court. I do think the prosecution has declined to correct false information that has come out in the media, and we've waited and hoped that that would occur, and it never has. And so that.
How often does the state prosecution team correct things that are said incorrectly in the media, though? I feel like there are times where, yeah, like, you know, maybe the prosecution team is like very involved with the public, and there are times where they kind of just do their thing and then the public just like does their own thing. And there's not a lot of like too much like intermingling and interviews and stuff like that.
That is why now, at this moment, at this time, we're coming forward and saying, well, then we're going to correct it. So that's where we are, and that's why we're here.
First up,
The narrative is that your client is the Moscow Mule murderer. Is that accurate? Can you confirm what the murder weapon is?
I can't confirm what the murder weapon is because the prosecution has never told us their theory. They have never said that it was given in a Moscow Mule, that fentanyl was distributed or in a Moscow Mule.
The Moscow Mule story. I think the reason why that took off is because there was a story that Kouri Richards made him a Moscow Mule, and then people just made the assumption that the fentanyl was in there.
During the preliminary hearing, their lead detective was on the stand, and I asked him the question, sitting here today.
Oh, Jeff O'Driscoll, I think.
Do you know how Kouri Richards administered fentanyl to Eric Richards? And he said, no. The prosecution has never said that it was in a Moscow Mule. That came up because there was discussions, and I believe a statement by Ms. Richards early on, that she and her husband had drank a Moscow Mule before dinner. So that was something that we just grabbed onto. It's sexy, it's interesting, the Moscow Mule murderer, but the prosecution has never said that.
I don't know if anyone ever called her the Moscow Mule murderer, though. It was always the author, the book author, the children's book author, Lady Murderer.
Is their theory of the case, not once. I still, sitting here today, don't really know how they're going to claim that Eric Richards ingested fentanyl.
But see, I can see why people made that inference that it was a Moscow Mule that was used, to hide fentanyl in.
Does the prosecution have an obligation to correct the record, the public record of this?
I mean, it's the prosecution's job to bring justice. That's what you do as a prosecutor. As a defense attorney, you protect your client's right. A prosecutor needs to find justice, fight for justice. And I believe by not correcting the record, by letting falsities sit out there, that's not what is happening. Now, we'll see what happens in the courtroom, but that, in our view, is something that they should have corrected.
I don't know. That just seems really tiring to constantly try to correct the narratives that the media is putting out there. I don't know. I feel like if you're in the prosecution team, you're just kind of just doing your own thing.
You confirm then that the fentanyl was administered in the Moscow Mule, given what you just said about the lead detective O'Driscoll. He couldn't confirm it, correct?
We cannot confirm what their theory is. We believe Ms. Richards is innocent. And, we're not here to convince you or anyone else that she's innocent other than those 8 people that are in the box at the trial. Those are the people we need to convince her she's innocent. So that's not why I'm sitting here, but we do want what is accurate to be out there. A lot of it will come out at trial, but there are certain things that are out there that we know right now, sitting here today, just aren't accurate. And the Moscow Mule appears to be one of them. Now, since they have not ever said to us exactly what they think their theory is, I suppose we could be surprised at trial and they'll say, oh, it was the Moscow Mule after all. But they have never stated that in court, ever, or in any pleadings or in any way.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's like, I don't think it's like a major deal. I don't know. It's like, I think it's reasonable that people would come to that inference. Taxi, who cares how she poisoned him?
Prosecution has painted your client as the Moscow Mule murderer. What is your opinion on that?
The Moscow Mule has never been stated in open court.
She's the egg sandwich lady. I don't know if you guys remember. She made the argument. So the state alleged that Kouri Richards tried to poison Eric on Valentine's Day, about 2 or 3 weeks before his actual murder. And they said that she used an egg sandwich, put fentanyl in an egg sandwich. It didn't work, but he did get really sick. He had hives, he fell asleep, and he felt really fucked up. She made an argument saying that, well, if Kouri bought him an egg sandwich at 8 or 9 a.m., I wouldn't wait 2 hours to eat that egg sandwich. I would eat the egg sandwich right away. Because apparently Eric felt sick hours later after she bought him the egg sandwich. She's like, well, would you eat an egg sandwich right away? I would eat an egg sandwich right away.
As being...
Oh, hey, Chai, how are you doing today? Hello, Chai. Thank you so much for the reset for 76 months. Hello, how are you? How is everything over in Aussie land?
Used to cause someone's death. I'm not sure where the press came up with that, but the lead detective has testified under oath that as of now, he does not know how fentanyl arrived in Mr. Richards' body. And so the press claiming that there's a murder weapon, that this was it, is just wholly fanciful. It just didn't happen, and it's not ever been said by the prosecution in this case, and it's never been in a pleading in this case, and it's just inaccurate.
Also, not only did they find fentanyl in Eric Richards' system, they also found, what kind of medication was it? It was some sort of a depressant medication that was actually prescribed to Kouri Richards. So I wonder if not only did she give him fentanyl, but she also gave the other medication that would make him to be super sleepy, super relaxed. And I wonder if that was administered before the fentanyl or at the same time. But that's kind of weird to me too as well, that he would find, or they would find, her medication in his system. But I guess you could make the argument that, yeah, he uses my, was it Xanax? I don't know if it was Xanax. It was the name would always trip me up every time I would pronounce it. But yeah, there's another medication that he had in his system that was prescribed to Kouri.
Second was Kouri in financial distress because of her real estate business. Prosecutors have said at the time of Eric Richen's death, Kay Richen's Realty owed hard money lenders more than $1.8 million.
Yeah, and then I think the defense is going to fight this too, saying that like, well, actually, yeah, you know, she owed people money, but she had the means to pay for it because she could have just sold her house. She didn't have to kill Eric. It's like, well, would Eric have agreed to that though?
Kathy, before this, was your client solvent?
So that's one of the issues we felt compelled to speak to the press about. There has been quite a bit of reporting about my client's financial situation. And the concern that we have is that the reports that have come out about her business, the solvency of her business, utterly failed to take into consideration a huge piece of property that she obtained 2 days after her husband passed away. And that's removed from all of the state's
Wait, sorry, the property that she purchased, or is this their marital property?
Calculations. So the equity in that house alone, the value of that one piece of property was enough to cover any debt that she had in her business. And we just feel that that is improper reporting, that it's...
Is she talking about the marital home? I think the marital home was under Eric's name. So is she saying that Kouri didn't have to kill Eric because if she wanted to, she could have just sold the marital home to cover her debts? But that doesn't make sense to me because, you know, Eric probably wouldn't want to sell the house. They were living in it. Kids were living in it. And wouldn't that give further motive for her wanting to have him killed so she could get rid of him and then sell their marital home to fund her debt? I don't know. She wasn't very specific about which home, but I'm assuming it's a marital home because it has equity in it.
That arbitrarily cutting off what condition her business was in prior to her husband's death without taking that into consideration is misleading. Furthermore, all of the reporting that is done only focuses on what we call debt service, not the actual value of the property she held. So that's completely being kept out. So it would be like if they said, you know, Ms. Halloran, what is your net worth? And you left out your house.
So they're saying that she could have... They're saying that when they looked at her debt, they didn't look at the fact that what the houses that she owned or the houses that she acquired were worth. But I still don't think it would cover it though. Because it's not like the house would just appreciate that quickly. Like, yes, she did flip those houses and she could have sold it, but like, I think she was in like a lot of debt. And I don't know if she was a good flipper. Probably not because she was in a lot of debt. I don't know. Like they're essentially saying that like all those houses that she had under her belt, well, she could have sold it and helped service her debt. I don't know, man. I think she was in like a lot of fucking debt.
I mean, that's a piece of property is an asset and it has value, and that's never taken into consideration. And so we believe that that has also been misreported, and that's something we felt ethically compelled to come forward and correct.
Third, life insurance.
Well, another one that's out there's false is that she took out hundreds of thousands of dollars in life insurance on him shortly before he died. That's not true.
No, I think it was like she took out one life insurance policy. It was like $100K or something. I don't think it was hundreds of thousands.
She took out one policy that came in the mail, and it was one of those mailers we all get from our credit union saying, sign here for $100,000 free life insurance. Sign here for yourself, sign here for your spouse. You can get $100,000 free life insurance. That was sent in. She sent that in about a month before he died, 4 or 5 weeks before he died. All the rest of his life insurance, and he had a lot of life insurance, was all taken out by him long before that. And he knew of all the life insurance policies that were out on him. And we don't know if he knew of that last.
But that one life insurance policy that she took out on Eric, the shady thing about that was, I think the state is alleging that she forged his signature. That's one. That's why they had like a handwriting specialist who's going to testify. 2, the address that's listed wasn't Eric's address. It was Kouri Richen's business address, I think, or her P.O. box, something like that. And then the phone number that was listed, it was Eric's phone number, but one of the digits was different. So it seems like whoever took out this life insurance policy, pretending to be Eric, did not want Eric to know that there was this life insurance policy being taken. Unless I'm remembering incorrectly.
Last one. But in terms of her taking out a life insurance policy on him, that's the only one, $100,000. So their motive according to the state, is, oh, she took out life insurance, she was going to cash in on all this money. And again, that's not accurate. I mean, she took out an extra $100,000, which may seem like a lot to a lot of people, and it is a lot, but to this family, the other life insurance,
I mean, to Kouri was a lot because she was, it seemed like she was in a lot of debt.
was well in excess of that last $100,000. And that amount of money.
Hi, Shirley. How are you doing today? Hello. Is your profile picture a combination of the nun and Jigsaw? It looks like Jigsaw in like a nun's outfit, but I can't really tell. Hello. How's it going today?
For this family was not really all that much.
Does the prosecution have an ethical obligation to correct these things that are out in the narrative?
Again, I think if what they want is...
Oh, did she asked her twice? Because you know what? She didn't really answer the question before, but it seems like the answer to that was no.
Justice to be served, they have an obligation to do that. Of course, their real obligation is in the courtroom, and we'll just have to see what happens then.
And the final point? The Google searches regarding how much fentanyl it would take to kill someone.
There are a number of things. You talked about the Moscow Mule, which we believe is not their theory. They've never said it was their theory. And I think the facts that come out in trial will make it very obvious that that isn't even a possibility.
Oh, hey, Lauren. How are you doing today? How's it going? I hope everything's well. You guys have a good, I don't know, I guess a little Halloween. You guys have a good Halloween. I know we're almost like in, it's going to be Christmas soon. Oh my God, time is going by so fast.
But and I think the facts that come out in trial will make it very obvious that that isn't even a possibility.
Will it?
But one thing that's been reported on that they have let go, have not corrected, is that Ms. Richins Googled how much fentanyl does it take to kill someone. And that's been in the press, and it's been extrapolated from that she Googled that before Eric Richins' death.
I don't think I heard that. I think it was afterwards. I think all the Google searches that Kouri made, at least the reportings that I saw, were all from after Eric died. And then she got a second phone and Googled more bad shit. And then that also got, they also confiscated that.
And that's just not the case.
Or not confiscated. I feel like that's not the right word to use. But they also took that into evidence.
We've discovered through court records, through exhibits, that she Googled how much fentanyl does it take to kill someone a day or two after she was told he died of fentanyl poisoning, not before, which makes perfect sense. She doesn't know how her husband died. She's told, your husband died of fentanyl poisoning, and she's looking, well, what does this mean? How much fentanyl would someone have to take to...
Yeah, but then remember all those other... Wendy. I think her name is Wendy, right? I think Catherine is the other one. Wendy, what about the other Google searches? Wendy! People aren't going to forget about the other Google searches. I'm also surprised this doesn't have more views. It only has 3,000 views? What? Like this would have like tens of thousands of views.
To die of fentanyl poisoning. That's a very, very different narrative than to leave it out there that, oh, the Moscow Mule murderer Googled how much fentanyl does it take to kill someone.
It's also a different narrative to leave out all the other Google searches that she did after he died.
No, that's not what happened.
One thing that's also been different in this case for the attorneys is how the prosecution is handling it.
The language that the prosecution uses in its filings, do you feel at any point that they have crossed the line?
Yes, this has been interesting.
Yeah, the court documents, okay, are getting like spicy and spicier. It's actually getting to the point where it seems a little bit performative to me, to the public. I don't know. I don't really like it when I read stuff like that, but it kind of reminds me of like the Blake Lively v. Baldoni shit, where it's like, are we arguing for the judge or are we just arguing for the public? What's happening?
I have not seen the personal language in filings typically in court that we're seeing here. The prosecution does seem to have a very strong opinion on this case, not just here's the evidence. They seem to have a personal opinion, which I think is reflected in their pleadings and has been reported on, some more than others. The poppycock.
But the defense is also tone match as well, and I think that's to take jabs at the prosecution.
Memo was one that got reported on, which is surprising and unusual to see language like that in legal pleadings. So we've been uncomfortable with that. I see the prosecutor's job, like I said, is to fight for justice. It's not personal. It's not personal for them, and it shouldn't be personal for us either. We're all there doing our job. We're there to protect our client's rights. We're there to make sure our client gets a fair trial. They're there to serve justice. And what they think is justice and what we think is justice is...
Kouri, literally luxury prisons for the rich in America. Interesting, more trials are linked to Google searching. Yeah, people are still searching all this stuff, all this incriminating things. Let them.
Very often the opposite. But it begins to get personal sometimes. I think when it's a case that it is high profile, there is a lot to it. They've been working on it a very long time. And, you know, I can see that sometimes you can't help but get personal. Sometimes we can't help but feel personally upset about our clients. You know, it's hard. It's a job, but it's hard. Some prosecutors are better than others at not making it personal. It's just been my observation, and maybe I'll be proven wrong at some point in the future, but this has become quite.
Yeah, I would say they're pretty scathing. I don't know if that's just his style though, or I don't know if it's Brad Bloodworth who's writing these, or maybe it's Margaret, or maybe it's like I don't know, one of their like law interns or something.
Personal for them.
So why did the defense attorneys come to 2 News Investigates? Why now? Why not just correct the record at trial?
Look, I never thought I would be sitting here. I don't think I should need to talk to the media. I really believe that I should be able to get a fair trial. But the way that this case has gone, I don't think we can do that. We have to make sure that when we step in there in February, that we have leveled the playing field, and we can't just hope for that.
Is that why you came to me?
That's exactly why we came here. And really, it's an ethical duty.
And I wonder how the judge feels about this interview, because like I said, they pulled out the transcript from the change of a motion to change venue hearing that was requested by the defense, and it was denied. But now the defense is on, you know, KUTV going on the news saying that, oh, you know, like this is not true, that's not true. It's like, weren't you just arguing that, you know, that the state might be tampering with the jury pool and like the news outlets and all that stuff and people who are covering this case? But it's like, now you're going on this interview, those 3 of you guys, and you guys are saying that X, Y, and Z are not true. I don't know, man. Oh man, all the stuff is sealed, but I would love to, I would love to be a fly on the wall in that hearing. I don't know if they had a hearing yet.
Duty. There's a rules of professional conduct that says if we think that there are facts out there that have been laid out in such a way that we think goes against our client's best interest, then we have a duty to come out. I think some defense attorneys do hide behind, hey, I'm just not going to speak, no comment. And I think that's fair. I do it a lot. But this is different.
Because we don't get an opportunity to argue the facts until we're in front of a jury. The judge decides the law, a jury decides the facts. And what's in the narrative right now in the public media is facts. So we won't have that opportunity until we're at trial and the jury is sitting in the box. And like I said, our concern is, can she get a fair trial when all of this is out there before we ever get an opportunity to show our side of the story and to show what we believe really happened in this case?
What do you believe happened in this case?
We believe that she's innocent, and the rest will come out during the trial.
Really? You think she's innocent? Okay.
Like I said, it's the people in the box that we need to convince, not the viewers, not anyone else. We just want to make sure that people don't come into that trial believing things that are absolutely false. We don't want to spend the time in the trial convincing people that...
The Kouri Richards case is tough. It is very tough. Okay, we have about another 5 minutes.
What they've already heard is wrong. We want to spend our time, presenting our case without having to go back and argue against what's in the media.
Is the prosecution in this case injecting a false narrative to the media?
I don't know if they're necessarily injecting it, but they're certainly not correcting it. And
so he is the one that actually has an attorney that is representing him. That appeared on the docket. And I think they tried to remove that from the docket. It's still there, though, that there's an attorney appearing on behalf of Mr. Ramos. So I don't know if it's, I don't know why just him, though, and not the other 2 attorneys. I don't know what happened.
I think that's why we're here today, is we honestly feel that we have an ethical duty when we have a client who is facing such serious charges and there is misinformation out there and it is not being corrected. It's a disservice to justice.
With that said, then how critical should the public be with this narrative? Or is the public just taking the prosecution's statements and narratives at face value because it's the prosecution, it's the state of Utah?
I think that's part of it. I think also it's easy because of the headlines to just go along with it. And when somebody who we trust, right, the county attorneys throughout this state, the district attorneys, we trust that they're going to make the right choices when they charge. But also, it doesn't end there. It's also through the prosecution of a case. And with such a high-profile case, I think the public needs to be even more critical. Because if what's going on in this case goes on to a lesser degree in other cases that don't get the exposure, that don't have the appropriate, resources.
I wonder if they're going to bring up the witness. So honestly, I thought that the reason why they did this interview was because I thought they were going to go after the prosecution team and essentially say that, oh, the prosecution team had this witness and they changed their story, but they never told us. They're trying to hide details from us. I thought that's going to be the topic of this interview. But honestly, I don't know. I don't think it was worth for them to do this interview. Like the 3 points that they talked about, I just don't feel like it's not like super strong to me. So again, the 3 points were: one, prosecution team never corrected the Moscow Mule theory because, well, they don't know what the prosecution's theory is. It might be a lemon drop. 2 was the financial stuff. They said that, you know, I think they were talking about the marital home. I don't think they're talking about the other home that Kouri Richins had just purchased, because, you know, that was obviously purchased with like hard money lenders, I believe. That, and then she also like borrowed money to buy that very expensive home that she was planning on flipping. But it was like the marital home one. And then the third was, what was the third one? Do you guys remember what the third one was? What was the third one? One was the Moscow Mule correction. 2 was her debt. And then the third was, the insurance policy thing. Like, I don't know if it was worse for them to do this, especially if it's going to risk them getting in trouble with the judge.
When our country starts to become in danger.
But if they think that the prosecution team was doing really shady shit and hiding evidence from them, and then, you know, they wanted to speak out about it publicly, and I was like, oh, okay, well, you know, maybe they're going to attack the prosecution team for the lack of dishonesty or something.
I may ask you this. I'm not.
But I don't know. We only got like 3 minutes left, and maybe they'll leave it toward the end.
Not sure if you will answer, but has the Summit County Attorney's Office vilified your client?
It's not their job to either vilify or create or make them insane, but it is their job to stick with the facts. And that's something that they have not done in this case, especially with how it's been portrayed in the media. If their goal is justice, they have not lived up to it, at least in this case.
Why reach out to 2 News Investigates?
I don't know. I mean, we have a lot of confidence in you, and we're hoping that you can get the word out, and that...
We're hoping you can get the word out. I don't know if a judge ever wants to hear that.
It's, you know, it's kind of the one pebble in a pond, right? That once you throw a pebble in, and the
ripple effect. I don't know if the judge is going to be happy hearing this. Miss Nestor, are you sure you want to be saying this on national TV where the judge can watch this?
Waves spread out, and we're hoping that once we correct it in one place that's credible, that's a well-known news source, that maybe the other news sources will also start to question a little more about what they're hearing and what they're covering, just so that the importance is that the facts that are reported accurately, and we really appreciate the opportunity to come forward.
Let me see if I can pull up Kouri Richins' court thing, because there was something on there. It was a motion to show good cause, and I Googled it. Not now, please. Motion to show good cause is a legal procedure used to ask the court to justify or explain why a certain action is necessary or why an opposing party has failed to comply with a court order. I wonder if they are going to... I wonder if the state is going to ask, like, hold these attorneys in contempt or something. I don't know.
And correct what we think has gotten out there incorrectly.
When you hear these false narratives and you know what you believe to be the truth.
It's extremely frustrating.
It's sealed though, so I can't see it. That's just my speculation.
I think being a defense attorney, being a judge, a bailiff, it feels routine. You possibly in your job when you're doing things feel routine, but you're doing so much in your job that means something. And it's no different in the courts. When we walk in, we joke around, we know everybody. At the end of the day though, we're doing something very special in there. Every single hearing, and especially when we're in trial. And what we're doing is we're upholding the Constitution. And that's a very high bar. And I feel that when I see these narratives come out, it becomes a game. It becomes another line. And we forget that there's somebody on the end of that. And that's a client. That's a human. That's a mother. And it does really frustrate me.
Is Kouri aware of these narratives, and how does she handle what you claim is misinformation being spread about her?
I can't hear that. What did they say? Let me slow down.
It does really frustrate me.
Is Kouri aware of these narratives, and how does she handle what you claim is misinformation being spread about her?
Is Kouri something, and how does she handle what you claim something? Oh, I can barely hear it.
She is distraught. She is heartbroken. This has been very, very difficult for Ms. Richins. She's been in jail now for over 2 years on these charges and doesn't have an opportunity to really tell her story until we're in trial. So yes, it's been very difficult on her.
I hope she testifies. I think that's it, right? Okay. So, going on here, like I mentioned, so many things are filed and we don't have access to. Like private. Where should we start? Let's start off with, oh gosh, there's so much happening here. Let's see, defense attorneys. I think like right around the beginning of October. Yeah, okay. Beginning of October was when shit was starting to hit the fan. So this is where we had the motion to consider bail. So again, her defense attorneys wanted her to be out on bail. There was a request for an order compelling disclosure. This is where they found out that Robert Crozier had, essentially retracted his statement about, selling Kouri Richins and the maid fentanyl. And he believes it was oxy, not fentanyl. Before he said it was fentanyl, but he said that he was detoxing that point and he wasn't really in his mind. So the defense, they were essentially accusing the state of hiding evidence for them and not giving them an updated statement from Robert Crozier. There's an affidavit declaration of Robert Crozier. That's a drug dealer. The state responded to it, which we covered. This was sealed, but of course, it's approval for defense costs and request for hearing. I think that was granted. This was another thing that was more drama. To compel Katie Richins Benson to comply with subpoena. So Katie Richins Benson is Eric Richins' sister. And she is the one that Kouri probably really fucking hates because Kouri thought that she was the trustee of the will, and then she also thought that she was the beneficiary of the life insurance policy. It seems like Eric may have thought something was weird happening with Kouri, and he changed everything over to his sister. Kouri didn't find out. She found out the hard way, and when she found out, she apparently punched out the sister. So there was that happening, and Kouri Richins was essentially saying that Katie was using money out of the trust to pay the witnesses to testify for her, and an investigator that was used to investigate Kouri Richins and follow her around. So that was happening. And then, as we scroll down more, I'm like, okay, well, there's more private, filed as private. And then we have the affidavit of Brad Bloodworth. And I think that's because that's the state prosecutor. I think that was filed private. And then this basically my assumption is this is the affidavit, essentially him talking about the interview that he did with Robert Crozier, the drug dealer, and Travis Hopper. Maybe that was the detective or investigator that was with the prosecutor doing the interview of the drug dealer. So I was like, okay, well, these affidavits are, filed under private. Boo. Oh, well. The state opposing Kouri Richins being out on bail. And then there was, this is the one that I was like, ooh, that was interesting. Motion to classify state's motion for an order to show cause. So I don't know if maybe the state saw that interview and they want to hold the defense attorneys under contempt or something. I don't know. But I think it started getting weird when we got to... So again, another affidavit of Brad Bloodworth in support of motion for an order to show cause. So this might be because of the interview, maybe. But things started getting really weird when we got down here. Right here. Private, filed. Appearance of counsel notice of limited appearance for attorney Alexander Ramos. So one of the defense attorneys that is representing Kouri Richins has a counsel that's representing him. But what's weird is that it's only him and not the two other defense attorneys. So is this because of the interview that they did, or is this something different, or does this have to do with Robert Crozier, the drug dealer? Is it a he said, she said type of thing, and then he thinks that he needs an attorney to represent him? I don't know. But that's where things start getting weird, and then I start looking back and backwards and saying that oh, wait a second, I wonder what's happening here. And of course, there was the interview that the defense attorneys did. So just a lot of stuff, and then there's more private, motion to classify, more private stuff. There was right here. Non-public information, privileged communication, motion to strike filing of appearance and remove from court docket. So I was like, oh, maybe they want to remove this from the court docket, the limited appearance, the appearance of counsel for, attorney Alexander Ramos. Maybe they want to remove that from the docket because maybe that's too salacious. It's still there though. I don't think that was, I don't know. There's, the Giglio. Oh, I don't think I covered this with you guys, but I did read it. Order to classify. Yeah. I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff happening here, and a lot of it is just filed under private. Oh, this is what I saw. Transcript request for the hearing that happened on April 7, 2025. So this is the hearing where the defense requested for a motion to change venue, and they argued that in the area where the trial was going to take place, the jury pool would be too biased to, essentially, there'd be too many biased people out there to serve in the jury pool, and they want to go out to like Salt Lake City, right? It's a bigger jury pool out there, and maybe it's less personal for those people. Maybe the people that is in this local area, maybe they have ties to the Richens family. Maybe, they hired Eric before his company. Maybe they bought houses from Kouri. I don't know. But they wanted to change over to Salt Lake City. So I thought it was really interesting that they wanted this transcript. But I do wonder if they want the transcript because the defense was making these arguments saying that, the jury pool being tainted by the news, by the media, blah, blah, blah. But then here they are on the KUTV interview talking about how there's false narratives about the Kouri Richens case, with the Moscow Mule, the life insurance policy, and the Google search, and it was like another one. But yeah, just a lot of stuff happening. Oh, request for hearing on pending motions. Yeah, when is the hearing going to happen? Let's see. Request for, this is going to cost $1 for me to buy it. Hey, Aaron. Okay, I recognize you, Aaron, because I see your profile picture. Hi, Aaron. How are you doing today? Hello, hello. How's it going? I hope you're doing well. We'll confirm the purchase. Before the court are the following. 1, defendant's motion to reconsider bail and conditions of release. 2, defendant's request for order compelling disclosure of exculpatory evidence. And 3, state's motion for an order to show cause. The parties have requested, either explicitly or implicitly, a hearing on each of the motions. Us too. Could we be a part of that? Having reviewed the motions, the court determines a hearing is not necessary? What? Or advisable. Wait. What? The court will issue a written ruling regarding each motion in the near future. No hearing. Oh, okay. Well, that answers our question. There's going to be no hearing on that. They're just going to have a written ruling. Oh, well, we probably will have access to the written ruling of the first 2, the motion to reconsider bail and conditions of release, and then 2, the request for the order compelling disclosure of exculpatory evidence. But for number 3, state's motion for an order to show cause, that will probably be filed under sealed. Wow. Okay, well, we get our answer. No, we're not going to have a hearing. All right, fine. Let me save this. Request for additional hearing. If I don't save it, that means I wasted my $1 buying this document. Rename. When does it come out today, right? Um, 1136. Request for hearing. All right, we'll just wait for the court's written order. We'll have to wait until February 23rd. Yeah, assuming there's no delays that happen. There's so much happening with this case. There's this article, but I think this article just basically, this is what I read, this article right here. Let's see. I guess we can read the article. In case I missed anything. I don't think I did, though. Criminal defense attorneys for Kouri Richens are speaking out to 2 News chief investigator reporter Wendy Halloran. In an unprecedented interview, Wendy Lewis, Kathy Nestor, Alex Ramos told Halloran that they are upset about how things they say are just not true that have been out in the media about their client for years. And now the prosecution, the Summit County's attorney's office, has done nothing to correct them. And under our rules of ethics, we're allowed to come forward and correct mistakes that have been made in the case. And that's what we're doing here today. Oh, by the way, if you guys want to watch the original interview, I will post it in the Discord. So watch the interview and give them a thumbs up. This is extremely rare, practically unheard of. Richens is scheduled to stand trial in February 2026. I don't know, man. It might get delayed. And is accused of murdering her husband, Eric. But her defense attorneys say the false narratives will make it very hard to find an objective jury, so they made the decision to come forward and talk exclusively to Halloran. Ramos said, "Look, I never thought I'd be sitting here." Richens' defense team told Halloran about their client, Kouri Richens. Lewis said, "She is distraught. She is heartbroken." Mr. Todd Halloran, I mean, we have a lot of confidence in you. They wanted to set the record straight. Ramos had this to say about the prosecution. Summit County attorneys Margaret Olson and Chief Prosecutor Brett Bloodworth. If their goal is justice, they have not lived it up, at least in this case. Lewis said, we're there to protect our client's rights. We're there to make sure our client gets a fair trial. Richards is the Kama's mom accused of murdering her husband in 2022. Nestor, Lewis, and Ramos are coming forward. False narratives that have been in the media about Kouri for years without prosecution correcting them. I don't know, man. The 3 false narratives that they were talking about, or sorry, the 4th 2. I would say 4. Jeez, I don't know if it was really worth doing this interview and then maybe get in trouble by the judge. But I don't know. Maybe they're not even in trouble by the judge. Maybe everything's fine. Maybe everything's good. I don't know. Hey, hello, come down. How are you doing today? Interesting name. Hello, hello. Speculations. Yeah, there was an investigation that reopened into Kouri's mom. Yeah, this case is pretty wild. This isn't about the ex-adult star that killed her husband and married her stepson. Disappointment. No, not that case. But you can keep me abreast on that case. You can update me on that. Hey, Bor, how are you doing today? How's it going? Nestor Todd Halloran, I do think the prosecution declined to correct false information that's come out of the media, and we've waited and hoped that would occur. It never has. Because of that, all 3 say they have an obligation to speak up. Ramos said, I really believe that I should be able to get a fair trial, but the way this case is gone, I don't think we can do that. We just have to make sure that we step in there February, that we have leveled the playing field, and we can't just hope for that. There are 4 points Richard's defense team say that are not true. First point, Moscow Mule. Halloran said the narrative is that your client is a Moscow Mule murderer. Is that accurate? Can you confirm what the murder weapon is? Lewis responded, I can't confirm that the murder weapon is because the prosecution has never told us their theory. They have never said that it was given in a Moscow Mule, that fentanyl was distributed in a Moscow Mule. Halloran asked, so where did that come from? Lewis's answer, that came up because there was discussions and I believe a statement by Miss Richards early on that she and her husband drank a Moscow Mule before dinner. So that was something that we just grabbed onto. It's sexy, it's interesting, the Moscow Mule murderer, but the prosecution has never said that in their theory of the case, not once. The second point, Google searches. It's Cumtown's fan channel law podcast. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Kouri's Google searches of how much fentanyl does it take to kill someone. Lewis said she Googled it after her husband died, not before, which is what some have reported, right? Some. I just remember that being a predominant theory out in the media. Lewis responded, she told her your husband died of fentanyl poisoning, and she's looking, what? What does this mean? How much fentanyl would someone have to take to die of fentanyl poisoning? That's very, very different narrative than to leave out there that, oh, the Moscow Mule murderer Googled how much fentanyl does it take to kill someone. No, that's not what happened. I don't think they call her the Moscow Mule murderer. I think they call her the book author, the children's book author. I don't know. I think she's done so much. She's alleged of doing so much shit that, like, it's hard to pinpoint a name for her, Kouri. The third point, Kouri's financial situation. Nestor says media reports have depicted Kouri and her business as being financially desperate financially, saying she was in total financial collapse. But Nestor says the prosecution is ignoring her main assets. Oh, this is the part that I want to definitely read because I was a little confused which house they were talking about. Oh, the house that she purchased? This is the house that she's talking about, not the marital home? So she's saying that, like, oh, well, she could have just sold this house. But she borrowed money to buy this house. It's not like it's going to instantly gain an appreciation. If she sells it, it might be at a loss. Huh? You can't buy a house and then sell it to service your debt because you still bought the house. I'm so confused. I don't know. I mean, maybe Nestor knows something that I'm completely missing. Probably. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. Although I'm very confused. The concern that we have is that there are reports that have come out about her business, the solvency of her business, and utterly failed to take into consideration a huge piece of property that she obtained 3 days or 2 days after her husband passed away. And that's removed from all the state's calculations. Oh, she's saying it's not part of the state's calculation. So the debt is actually way less than what well, it depends. In the state's calculation, did they include Kouri Richards borrowing money to purchase this house or no? Because if they didn't include the money that Kouri Richards borrowed to buy this house, then it would make sense why they didn't add the property value of this house. But I guess what she's also saying is that they didn't add the property value of the other assets that she has. But it seems like from what the state was telling us, it seems like she was in so much debt and she owed people a lot of money. Even if she did sell everything, it doesn't magically, wipe you out at zero debt. But maybe they think it's gonna be like way less debt. I think they said that her debt total was it like 2 to 3 million or something? So the equity in that house alone, the value in that one piece of property was enough to cover any debt that she had in her business. But she didn't have equity in that house because she purchased the house, borrowing money, I think. If she sold it, the money would just go back to the money that was borrowed. I'm confused. Big ass house. That's like a fucking like haunted mansion. That'd be really fun to play, like tag in or like manhunt. Fourth point, life insurance policies. Lewis says, well, another one that's out there that's false is that she took out hundreds of thousands of dollars of life insurance on him shortly before he died. That's not true. Lewis said that Kouri sent in an offer she received in the mail for a credit union for life insurance for her and her husband for $100,000. Lewis said she sent in about a month before he died, 4 or 5 weeks before he died, all the rest of life insurance. He had a lot of life insurance, were all taken out by him long before that. And he knew all of the life insurance policies were out on him. Wait, so was all taken out by him long before that? Okay, so he was the one that took out his own life insurance policy. But again, there's a lot of shady stuff with this life insurance policy because they are alleging Kouri forged his signature. And for the contact information for Eric, it was not an address that he had access to. It was like Kouri's business address or her P.O. box. No, I don't think it was a P.O. box. I don't think you can use a P.O. box as an address for stuff like this. And then also for the phone number, it was off by 1 digit. So it seems like whoever did this didn't want Eric to know there was a life insurance policy taken out on him. Ultimately, Kouri's defense team says they're concerned about the false narratives and the fact that the prosecution team has done nothing to correct them. Ramos added, I feel that when I see these narratives comes out, it becomes a game, becomes another line, and we forget there's somebody on the end of that. And that's a client, that's a human, that's a mother. Kouri's defense team says their client is innocent. Lewis says we believe that she's innocent and the rest will come out during the trial. I mean, there's just a lot of compelling evidence against Kouri Richards. But yeah, we'll see what happens in trial. This is a statement by the Summit County's Attorney's Office. Have I seen Margaret Olson? Maybe Brad Bloodworth has such a presence that he's the only one that I remember. But this is a statement. Yeah, I don't know. This is why I think shit is going down in the courtroom, because this is what the Summit County's Attorney's Office wrote. We are aware of the recent filings submitted by the defense. We will address all matters related to this case through the legal process rather than in the media. Our formal response will be part of the public record next week. So that's their formal response. So I don't know. The judge said that he wasn't going to have a hearing. He said it's not necessary, and he's just going to have a written ruling. Man, I was hoping for a hearing, so I could hear both sides make their arguments, and then, yeah. And that's it. You have zero doubt that she's guilty? I mean, yeah, leave a little bit of room. You never know. Things happen. Things change. She parsed through fraudulent means, though. ... Oh, the life insurance policy, allegedly. Prosecutors claim Kouri Richards' estate real estate business, K. Richards Realty, had $170K in revenue during the 5-month span, while monthly debt service obligation exceeded $250,000. When we went through the financial fraud stuff, it was fucking crazy. It's wild. But yeah, her trial is scheduled for February. So what, 4 months? Time's gonna go by so fast. But apparently, remember how we talked about Brian Walsh recently. So Brian Walsh was supposed to have his trial last month, but that was pushed because of they were doing a mental health evaluation for him. I think they already rescheduled his new trial date. But that one's a real interesting one because he's the guy that has I think they're going to determine this Friday. Brian Walsh's competency hearing is on for Friday, prosecutors say. Okay, so I guess this week we'll find out when his trial is going to be. But that was an interesting one because he has some really incriminating Google searches. But one of the lead prosecutors, or not the prosecutor, I think it was a lead detective, is Michael Proctor. And Michael Proctor is he's going through some shit right now. So I don't know if that's going to fuck up their case. I don't know if Proctor was a lead investigator or if he was just like one of the investigators. I don't know. But that would be kind of interesting to see. But they have not found his wife yet, Anna Walsh. She is still considered missing. All right, guys. Anyways, that's pretty much it for today. If you guys missed it earlier, we briefly covered Sarah Boone. I do have a video for Sarah Boone if you guys want to be caught up with Sarah Boone and the appeals attorneys, the revolving doors appeal attorneys. If you guys want to catch up with that, the video is out. And then I mentioned Donna Adelson. She put in a notice for an appeal. And then we covered Brian Kohberger and the restitution hearing. And the judge did say that he will, he'll have a written ruling sometime in the future. So we'll keep an eye on that. But that one was a very interesting hearing to watch because I thought it was just going to be a boring hearing, but things were definitely getting fiery between the defense attorney and the judge. And then we covered the Kouri Richins, her defense attorneys, doing an interview. There's a lot of things happening on the docket, and I was just, just waiting to see how if we end up getting more information. But I think a lot of us are just kind of like in the dark about that one. Hey, Yoshi, how are you doing today? Can we take a moment to congratulate Corgi and all the greenery in the background? Do you not see how limpy my Monstera is? I need to fertilize. I haven't fertilized my Monstera in like 5 years, so I promise I will look into that. But yeah, the Monstera is so frumpy, man. She's actually my ride or die. She's been with me since the very beginning of my plant journey during COVID. If you guys want plants and you're kind of like me, you're just really bad at watering, taking care of them. Monstera's spider plant, or I think it's called spider something. It's not nasty or anything, but that guy will live forever. And pothos. But I would say Monsteras and the spider plant are more flexible on you, kind of like not taking care of them. You wonder when the Gilgo Beach serial killer will stand trial. Oh, I don't know. Is that going to be a state case or a federal case? Did it all happen in New York? I haven't really been following it. Federal. Oh my gosh. Wait. No, the snake plant is the worst. Okay, that shit died so quick. I don't like the snake plant. Succulents? Ugh. Did you guys watch? I think I posted this in the Discord. Did you guys watch The Perfect Neighbor? I feel like anyone could have put it together. So there was no commentary or anything. It's just like a bunch of body cam footages being strewn together and maybe like some clips from like the news reports. But yeah, pretty fucking crazy. I was like, man, we could have just done that. But anyways, you guys haven't seen on Netflix The Perfect Neighbor. Very interesting. Very sad too. His trial hasn't started yet. Which one? Gilgo? Oh yeah, sorry. Is it federal or state? I thought it was a federal. Oh, it's being prosecuted at the state and local level. Oh. Was it only in New York? For some reason, I thought it was multiple states. I guess it's only in New York then. Okay, so that's going to be state. Okay, yeah. But I think, I don't know. Isn't New York kind of weird with kind of streaming their cases? I watched reactions of The Perfect Neighbor and I feel like it's plenty. Oh, like YouTube's like recapping and stuff. Man, yeah, what a crazy. It was crazy. Yeah, very crazy. Kind of reminds me of the reason why my brother really wanted me to watch it is because, when we were kids, we were like, neighborhood kids, a little bit rowdy, we would play around, run around, kind of like not be supervised by parents. And we did have a neighbor that was like kind of crazy, but she wasn't like this level crazy. She was kind of crazy, but not this crazy. But oh boy, it's wild. Corky, just curious, but when can we expect you to do analysis on the Emiru case? I mean, I wrote a little blurb on Discord. Quite honestly, I don't think there's enough information to really do that. We got to hear from her side. We got to hear from Mizkiv's side. And then there was a complaint that was filed for the lawsuit. I haven't seen any updates on that, but I feel like there's not enough information. So my take on it was just really boring. It was just like, oh, yeah, it looks really bad. And we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. But if there's more court documents, like I think like the first like couple of months, usually it's kind of like nothing's really happening. But once we get into maybe like, I don't know, like a year in, 2 year in, and there's like some discovery, some depots, maybe it'll be more interesting. But I think, quite honestly, it'll probably just be, I don't know, maybe a dismiss or a settlement. I don't really have a feeling that's really going to really go to trial or anything like that. But yeah, very boring take so far. Need more information. Did you ever get around to watching that jury duty movie? Which one? 12 Angry Men? I watched that one. There was one with a TV show where this guy was on jury duty, but he didn't know that it was like televised or something like that. I don't know. I watched that one kind of, but then I got bored. I forgot. Hey, Ricardo, how are you doing today? How's it going? Hello, hello. How are you? Pencil Cactus? Never heard of that one, I don't think. Ricardo, how are you? Thank you so much for the resub. 74 months. How's it going? I hope you're doing well. Yeah, I haven't really been following the Gilgo Beach one. All right, guys, that's pretty much about it. I think one that I'm kind of like sort of keeping a light eye on is if there's any development in the David. It's not really a case right now, but like if something happens to David, the singer, I don't know. My friend was keeping me up to date about that one, so it's called Juror Number 2. Oh, I think isn't that a TV show though? Juror Number 2. Isn't this a TV show? I did watch this. Wait, why don't I remember? I did watch it though. With Nicholas Hoult, right? Is this the one where... Hold on. I know I watched this, but for some reason I don't remember this. Oh. Wait, didn't he do something fucked up? He serves on the jury in a high-profile trial. Okay, I remember that. Toni Collette's in it. Wait, okay, I don't know why I don't remember this movie. Oh, that's right. He tried to get out of it because his wife was pregnant. Oh, this movie. Oh, this movie kind of pissed me off at the end. Can I spoil it? Have you guys seen this one? How long has this movie been out? I don't remember what happened in the end, though. Okay, guys, you guys haven't seen Juror Number 2 yet, and you want to watch it? I'm going to spoil it really quickly. It came out, like a year ago. So he's like serving on jury duty, and the man is being accused of being at the bar with his girlfriend. People saw him getting in a fight with his girlfriend at the bar, and then the next day she's like found in the ditch or something. So the assumption is that the boyfriend beat up the girlfriend and then like left her for dead. However, I think the guy, as he is sitting on jury, he realizes that, oh, I was around that area that night and I actually drove by that area and I could have sworn I hit something, but I didn't know what it was. And I think he starts realizing that he was the one that hit the girl. Of course, he didn't know at the time. And now he's on jury duty. And I think at the end, I think he's probably like a spineless fucker. And I don't think he ended up like saying anything. And he ends up convicting that guy because he doesn't want the investigation to continue or, for him to be in trouble for it. Something like that. Right? And isn't that just how it ended? Wasn't the ending bad? Wasn't it just like him convicting the guy and that's it? He's like let off. He got off. I don't remember what happened at the end though. Thank you for a great evening. Thanks for hanging with us, Aaron. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. I think we're at just at the end. Really? The prosecutor got him at the end? Oh, it's because he said something. Oh, maybe they did get him. No, I think maybe it was an open-ended thing. I think at the end, he said something to another juror, and then the juror said something to the prosecutor? Oh. I'm going to read this part. One juror adamant he would not change his guilty vote. Justin convinces the rest to vote to convict and is not present when the verdict is given. After Scythe is sentenced to life without parole, Killebrew discovers Justin is Allie's husband and confronts him. When she argues that Scythe has been convicted of a crime he is innocent of while the real perpetrator goes free, Justin implores her to leave the case alone, countering that Scythe had a history of violence while he, a good man, would see his life and family destroyed, adding that Kendall's death was unintentional and admitted that she tried the wrong man could harm her chances of becoming a DA. Allie gives birth to their baby. Justin sells his car to remove any connections to the crime. He starts to feel relieved and ready to move on from the case until Killebrew arrives at his doorstep. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Oh, yeah. Just kidding. There was justice at the end. It sounds like a bad Lifetime movie. I actually really like the movie. But I think this is during a time where I watched so many movies that you just kind of just like forget movies that you enjoyed. Okay. I liked it. You guys should watch it. It's called Juror Number 2. But I don't know. I felt like if he just came out and just be like, hey, wait a second. I think I did this. I'm not quite sure. You know, like, I don't know. Maybe you would get off easily. I don't know. Horror movies don't really scare Corgi anymore. I will tell you this, though. I rewatched Conjuring 1. It's fucking scary. And you know what's one of the most scariest movies that's out there? It's the movie where, oh God, it's so fun. Oh, Oddity. Watch Oddity. It's so scary. Have I watched the new Dairy? No, it's already out. The TV show. You like it? I heard about it, but I didn't know it's out already. I'm going to watch it then. Some new developments about Baldoni Lively stuff, apparently. Not that it matters because Lively and Reynolds basically self-destroyed their reputation already. I mean, honestly, I feel like people are like forgetting about the Baldoni and the Lively stuff. I don't know, man. Blake Lively is back to promoting her hair shit. And then I saw Ryan Reynolds was on the cover of like Time magazine or something like that. I don't know. But I don't know. I haven't really seen any updates about the Baldoni Lively stuff, or it's just not popping up on my feed. But I know that there was a deadline for Blake Lively's deposition last month, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't really been following it. I will keep an eye out to see if anything pops up. But yeah, I haven't seen anything. What sucks though is that if it ever goes to trial, we won't be able to watch it because it's a federal case. There's 3 episodes out so far. Okay, yeah, maybe we'll check it out. All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thanks for, popping in. I appreciate you guys. And we will have a new vlog that is out on my second channel. Feel free to check it out. It will have the Halloween stuff on there. Actually, you know what? Let me, I'm going to probably have the vlog come out today. I think I have everything ready. But feel free to check out the second channel. Oh, thanks, Go Lucky. Yeah, there's a link for that. Let me see. Hey, what's the command on my YouTube? No, it's not it. Hey, Corgi. Take it, Corgi, in chat. Guys, it was a pleasure chatting with you guys. Thank you so much for watching this with me. And yep, there's a link for the second channel. All right, guys, have a good one. Take care. Have your notifications on. And if you guys are new here, feel free to hit the subscribe button. And it'll be, lovely to see you guys again. Feel free to come back, say hello on the live streams. Other than that, guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Take care. Lively's main selling point has been her looks, but a bad character overrides good looks, at least to me. I've always enjoyed Blake Lively's movies, but I just feel like I just can't really watch her anymore because of all the people were essentially saying Blake Lively just plays Blake Lively, and I was like, damn, I can't unsee that. Although it is pretty obvious. Like anytime you watch a movie now, it's very Blake Lively. Like, she brings in her own wardrobe. Her hair is always the same. Like everything about her is always the same. But yeah, I don't know. There are some movies that I enjoy from her though, but she's like, to me now. All right, guys, have a good one. Take care. I'll see you guys later. And yeah, we'll keep an eye out to see when Brian Walsh's trial is going to happen. We'll keep an eye out if there's anything with Sarah Boone's appeal for the judges to make their decisions in the Kouri Richards case and also the Kohberger case as well. But I hope you guys have a good one. Bye.